Howdy, folks. It's Farmer Eric here, and I'd like to talk to you about one of the most interesting plants I've met in a long time. What we're talking about right now is a type of hibiscus, and I grew up around hibiscus, but not this kind. You might be familiar with the kind that maybe you see on Hawaiian shirts, the big fuchsia, orange, yellow flowers, but this kind is slightly different and it grows differently, and you can also use it in a variety of ways. So, what we're talking about today is known as Jamaican sorrel or Roselle or the Florida cranberry. I was going to say California cranberry, but it's known as the Florida cranberry. And one of the reasons is because it has cranberry flavor to it. It's a very interesting plant, and we got some pictures on that side of the plant that I harvested from this morning out at Bumblebee Community Garden in Paradise, California. And they look like this. And this is after they've bloomed, have their flower. And when you pick them, you can then go in. It's called the calyx. And in the middle, there's a seed pod. And what makes this flower interesting, among other things, is a seed pod. And here we have some open seed pods. And this was definitely a really cool discovery because it reminded me of one of my other favorite vegetables, which I have right here. And the way I kind of recognized was when I was breaking apart, you break apart the outside, the calyx, which is edible. And you'll notice if you're breaking these apart and you get that seed pod out, you get a little bit of this slimy residue, which doesn't sound appetizing, but it's not that bad. And so you have this slimy residue. And there's one thing that it reminded me of. Let me see if I can show you. You see that? You can see the sliminess of it. And that's when I thought, oh wow, is this potentially related to okra, which is right here? This is from my front yard, a little okra plant. And it turns out that this type of hibiscus is related to okra. And the sliminess is what really reminded me of okra. On top of the fact that you can see this is the Jamaican Sorrel Roselle Florida Cranberry seed pod in there. Very similar to the inside of an okra. Very, very similar. It turns out you can cook the seed pods of this type of hibiscus in similar manner that you could the okra, and they're high in protein. They're used in soups a lot, and I'm going to try different okra recipes with the Roselle or the Florida Cranberry Hibiscus here. And then you have, which is interesting because they are from the same family, all this material, which is why it's known as the Florida Cranberry, because it has a very cranberry flavor. Most people are familiar with the tea that comes from the hibiscus. And not all hibiscus are like this. I grew up with what most people probably know as hibiscus, the giant pink, yellow, red, and orange flowered hibiscus, but this is slightly different. And you can't just eat it raw, and it kind of reminds me of a raw cranberry. And most people will stew cranberries with a little bit of sugar, and that really helps to bring out the flavor as well as correct some of the texture and the vegetation type of taste that goes along with it. So I found this to be a very interesting plant to discover. First happened with the sliminess, followed by the seed pods. They're like very similar to the okra seed. And then I finally realized I have an okra plant in my front yard. I know what the flowers look like. And this particular variety of hibiscus has an orchid like flower, which I'm about to put up, that is very similar to the okra flower. So check this out. There we have an okra flower right next to the Jamaican Sorrel, Roselle, Florida Cranberry Hibiscus flower. And if you look at them, you can see the similarities as well as the stalk structure. This happens to be a reddish type of okra in the picture, and they're actually part of the same genus, and that's the Malvaceae family of plants. And what was amazing is that it just kind of happened out of observation that I realized, wow, these plants are very similar. And I didn't think that a hibiscus variety would have so many applications. Like I said, these seed pods are high in protein. They're commonly used in soups. You can roast them. The outer part of the calyx, which surrounds the seed pods, is just the part of the plant. Very cranberry like structure to them. You can eat them raw or dry them in a way that makes them similar to dried cranberries or any kind of dried fruit. You could also stew them with a little bit of sugar, the same way you would do raw cranberries. Or you could dry them out, and it's common for tea. So when they're really dried out, they make a really good tea. And I just found this very interesting because it was a plant that I had no idea had so many applications as well as commonality with some of my favorite plants like okra. And another really cool ancestor of this plant, a common cousin, would be the marshmallow, which is interesting because of that sliminess that they both have. Back in a long time ago, hundreds of years ago, thousands maybe, in ancient Egypt, the marshmallow was used to make what eventually became the actual marshmallow. So the plant mallow is also related to okra and this type of hibiscus, which is very interesting. And you could totally tell once you get your hands into the plant. And it just was a eye-opening, really cool and interesting experience to find this plant that had a lot of commonality with two of my favorite plants, the okra and the mallow, which you can use as a tea. It has that very stickiness, the slimy kind of stickiness, but it's great for throat health. And also, in old times, you would kind of make primitive marshmallows with it. So I just want to share that all, and thank you so much. This was harvested from Bumblebee Community Garden in Paradise, California, and I work there because of the Butte County Local Food Network. So this is a first attempt at a little bit of agriculture fun and video, and I hope you liked it. So thank you so much. Take care, and let's grow.